大谷さん大谷さん
はい。
ちゃんと聞いてなきゃダメでしょ、よそ見なんかして。
Alien 9 is fucking weird. It's a 4-episode OVA from 2001 that explores one girl's fears of two things: loneliness and growing up. On the literal front, it's about Yuri Otani and two other girls either signing up or being signed up for what's presented as a very normal school function of fighting off alien invasions, and the various incidents that occur because of that function, and the various slice-of-life moments besides, all play into those two fears. Isolation is most prominent in the first and last episodes, with extra bits sprinkled in between. The series opens with Yuri being isolated from her classmates by her classmates. They all almost unanimously vote to make her their class's alien fighter, a position she does not want, and one that isolates her from them both physically and in terms of having to live out an entirely different school experience from them. From moment one, Yuri is made to feel unwanted by her classmates, leading her to withdraw into herself and spend a lot of time in a state of sadness and fear. Despite ostensibly being part of a group, Yuri feels isolated from her two fellow alien fighters. They're either hyper-competent in or enthusiastic for their roles, while Yuri just sucks at it and is afraid. Despite them and a friend making efforts to reach out to her, Yuri can't help but feel distant and unwanted. Yuri's feelings of loneliness, and indeed those of the other two, are brought to the forefront and amplified in the last episode, when a big-ass alien called Yellow Knife uses some wacko mental powers to exploit those feelings and let the girls, specifically Yuri, tear themselves apart mentally. The depressing part is, I'd be hard-pressed to say that Yuri actually overcame this fear. She's rescued from it by one of her teammates, literally showing that she is not in fact alone, but her fear wasn't wholly dissipated. It, along with many other threads, still linger. It's a deeply engraved issue that cannot be overcome just like that. It's only something she can slowly work toward overcoming. At the very least, defeating Yellow Knife represented the first step in that process. Yuri's other big fear is of growing up. This fear primarily arises from being forced to be an alien fighter and from having an alien symbiote that comes with the job called a Borg.
I am Locutus.
No, not that one. Growing up in this context refers to a couple of things: new responsibilities, and being uncomfortable in a changing body. On the first point, growing up is hard. That, I'm sure, most of us can agree on. Being an adult is more than just getting older. It means taking on more responsibilities, becoming self-sufficient, and all of that can be overwhelming and terrifying, especially when those new responsibilities are unexpected and unwanted. I mean, I don't want to clean those dishes, but if I want to eat off clean tableware, I gotta, and I didn't expect to have to pay that $1,000 hospital bill, but I guess that's the price of not dying. Or capitalism. In either case, not things we expect to or like dealing with. And that's just what Yuri experiences, albeit at a much younger age than she should have to, and with much weirder shit, which only further justifies her inability to cope with it all. These new responsibilities also come with a Borg, a symbiote that helps her fight aliens in exchange for feeding off of her. It's in the Borg that we get our analogy for that second point: discomfort with a changing body. The way it feeds is, you can see, pretty much no one would be comfortable with that. And in the second or third episode, I don't remember which, it becomes her hair, a literal part of her body, and it goes out of control. Just as one feels not in control of their body and life as they grow up, so too is Yuri physically unable to control the actions a part of her body make. All of these factors speak to anxieties many of us face growing up, making Yuri a very human protagonist. These themes were contributed to by more than just the narrative, they were also accentuated by the show's visual and auditory presentation and the performance of Yuri's voice actor. This show's visuals are characterized by dull, washed-out colors and low lighting. These visuals help convey the show's melancholic tone. Just as Yuri is lacking any true happiness and human connections in her life, so too does the world lack exciting colors. It's all dull and depressing, a reflection of Yuri's state of mind. Even in scenes with supposedly a lot of light, characters are cast in shade. Look here, for instance. This room is being flooded with light from huge windows that cover one whole side of the room, and yet most of this room is a dark, dull blue, and the characters are primarily seen from an angle where the light doesn't hit them. There may be a world filled with light out there somewhere, but Yuri's world sure as hell is not. The soundtrack too plays into all this, mostly conveying a sense of constant anxiety. Really, the only word that can describe this soundtrack is weird. Its unusual instrumentation and pacing are all somewhat offbeat, abnormal, and wash every scene over with feelings of detached bemusement. I'm just saying words at this point, it doesn't even mean anything. Just like with the visuals, the soundtrack is a reflection of Yuri's state of mind, which in turn gives the whole show an aura of discomfort. Also of note is the performance of Yuri's voice actor Judy Ihata. Her performance is noticeably non-standard for anime voice actors. She doesn't overact, put too much effort into projecting cuteness or anything like that. She sounds constantly sad and anxious, a more down-to-earth performance that projects authenticity. It's worth noting that Ihata is not a career voice actor, and herself was quite young during production, only about 13 or 14, maybe. Not sure about her date of birth. I found on her blog that she said she turned 22 in 2009, so the math there says 14 in 2001, but Mal says she was born in 89, so she would have been 12 when the first episode came out. In any case, she was young. On top of that, this was her first and one of very few roles. These factors together make her performance all the more believable. After all, Ihata was an experienced young girl thrust suddenly into an unfamiliar situation, just like Yuri. In some small way, the actor really was the character. If I have one gripe with the show, with its presentation of these ideas, it's that, I think we might have needed more than 4 episodes. Lots of ideas are introduced and explored, but rarely resolved. Maybe the lack of resolution itself is thematically appropriate, but it doesn't feel like it when the show leaves narrative cliffhangers open. In all likelihood, this is one of those cases where this is a short OVA that exists purely to advertise the manga, thus the cliffhangers, but that doesn't mean this one piece of media is any less unsatisfying. No matter the reason, an unsatisfying experience is unsatisfying, and no outside reason or continuation will change that. I say all this not because I desperately want to see any of the dangling narrative threads continue, but because during the end credits of the last episode, one of the main characters is shown to have fucking died. Excuse me? What the fuck is going on? So clearly there was only one option. Unable to live with a cliffhanger like that, I actually went and read the manga. That's a thing I pretty much never do, but I did this time because both the OVA and the manga were very short, so it didn't take up too much time, and yeah, it got weirder. While I don't think the manga has any one image as weird as this, narratively, the source material got even more esoteric. This video is not about the manga, but it's worth noting that you should read it if you like the OVA. Oh yeah, and one last thing that bugs me. The ears! By God, the ears! They're so huge! So despite the incomplete nature of this OVA and those ears, I think Alien 9 is very much worth watching for its exploration of the fear of loneliness and growing up through a wacky sci-fi lens and quirky presentation. I'm not about to call it the best anime ever, but it's certainly a mite more insightful than most. I must mention that what I've discussed so far does not encompass everything Alien 9 has to offer, nor everything I pulled from it. I mean, hell, I barely even touched on this OVA's propensity for ludicrous imagery. This was merely a few things I thought worth noting. Thanks for sitting through my ramblings about a weird sci-fi cartoon show. This has been a viewer's choice video, and this anime was put forth by Burbman. Thanks for this one, Mr. Burb. Now you, viewer, can try to get me to watch something, so check the description for full instructions. I'll be powering through the next Precure soon, so until next time, thanks again for watching. I'll see you later.